Welcome to the Feminist Wellbeing Podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Dozier, non-diet nutritionist, certified intuitive eating counselor, and cognitive behavior coach. And I've earned myself a PhD in diet culture. And at the age of 40, after graduating from a 25-year dieting career, I said no more. And I'm here today to guide you on how to feel damn good by reshaping your mind instead of your body. In this podcast, we go beyond the food and fight diet culture and patriarchy by living powerfully. And the topic of today is kind of the root, the root of our addiction, of our constant desire to lose weight, which gets us trapped into diet culture and wellness culture and makes us a victim of patriarchal societal standards, beauty standards, all of that. I am not pretending that this is the solution for all of you listening here, but I want to say this. I have been now coaching women in this exact narrow field for close to 9 years now. I'm about 8.5 years in. And what I'm about to share today, this problem addiction, particularly around the desire to lose weight, I have seen it over and over and over again. So it is an anecdotal observation from clinical observation. It is not a fact, but I want to encourage you to pay attention and ask yourself these questions to see if the addiction to being a problem, to you thinking of yourself as a problem, could perhaps be the reason why you are finding yourself stuck in this desire to lose weight. And I'm going to give you some context on how I decided to talk about this today, because this is deep coaching. What I'm about to share to you today is typically in about halfway through a 6-month journey with my client. I work with my client in a setting of a minimum of 6 months. Most of my students will continue working with me for another 6 months. And this particular aspect of our journey of liberating ourselves from diet culture and tackling this kind of deep-rooted, deep-seated desire to lose weight comes in, or my client become aware of it, usually by month 2 and 3. So I call that deep coaching. And one of my particular client had this awareness in the last couple of weeks, and she said to me this. She said, Stephanie, I feel like you read me so well. I feel like you're a mind reader. And I want to address this because perhaps you're going to feel the same way as you're listening to this podcast episode. So I want to get something out of the way. The reason why it may seem like I'm a mind reader is that I always know what's going on in your brain, in your pattern, because I pay attention to my own brain. Because I coach women in this very niche, narrow field area that have similar experience. And I personally, I believe I teach, I train professional from this space of lived experience. And therefore, I'm always studying my own experience. I'm studying my own mind, my own pattern of thinking. And I'm always taking my work and understanding my desire to lose weight, my thought pattern, deeper and deeper to get to what is causing these thought patterns. So the reason I understand your brain so well, the reason why I understand my client's brain so well, is because I have done this work on myself. The fact that I can teach in such detail is not because I'm perfect. It's not because I've never had the problem. It's not because I'm better. It's not because I'm unique. It's because I have done this work on myself at the level by which I can now see it, recognize it, distinctively call it out in other people so well. So, what I'm about to teach you today is not something that sits in a study somewhere, that's not sitting in a book. It's something that I've created, acquired through coaching so many of you by first coaching myself. So I want to put the plate right now, and we're going to talk about the first part of the desire to lose weight. But first I want to frame something for you, which is the concept of problem addiction. I call this pattern problem addiction probably 5 or 6 years ago, while I was going through my own journey of understanding why I could not release this desire to lose weight. And when my coach, my support system that was guiding me through this journey showed me this pattern of problem addiction, for me, I can only compare it to an earthquake. It was like a earthquake level 7 and 8. You know, the seismic level 7 and 8, where there's major damage. Well, for me, it was an earthquake, call it 7.5, but not in a damage which has caused me pain, but actually damage broke down my belief about the desire to lose weight to such degree that it released it. And that's that concept of problem addiction. Was a major aha moment in my life. And every time I have to move a woman through that, when I coach a woman through that over and over again, it's when they say to me, I get it now. Like I see it for what it is, the desire to lose weight. So let's talk about problem addiction. And I'm going to use my own experience because obviously there's confidentiality agreement with my client. I can't share their personal experience here. So I'm going to use myself. For 25 years in my journey, my what I call my dieting career, I was addicted to making myself a problem to be fixed. My problem was I thought it was my weight, but really it was I am not good enough. And throughout various circumstances in my life, weight being one, my career being another one, I was seeking to prove to the world that I was good enough. That once I fixed my weight problem, I could achieve ultimate happiness, ultimate, everybody would love me. I would never have a negative emotion again. I would be beautiful. I would have a partner. I would live this perfect life. And the same thing in the circumstance of my career. Once I achieve this particular level in my career, I would be happy. The anxiety would go away. The stress would go away. I would just be this constantly happy person who never have a problem. Though at the time, during those 25 years, I didn't see it for an addiction to being good enough or the addiction to proving myself that I wasn't good enough. I was actually addicted to fixing my weight, or I was addicted to climbing the corporate ladder. And this is probably where you are at right now, right? You're probably thinking, or secretly thinking, because I find many women who tend to be in my world have discovered diet culture. They're no longer acting like shrinking their body and starving themselves. They have moved past that, but yet secretly in their brain, they're still thinking, oh my God, if I was just thin, life would be better. I'm just stuck in that place where I can't diet and I can't be thin. So my life is miserable, right? So if you are there, that's exactly for you. And you probably have the thought, if only I could lose weight, quote unquote, naturally, my life would be perfect. I'd be happier. Like people would love me. I would not be rejected. I wouldn't have to work so hard. And you're constantly in that loop. And I'm going to explain the loop. The loop is really important here. And I want you to see it as an infinite circle. So if you have a pen and a paper in front of you, literally draw an infinite circle. You know, an arrow circle that keeps looping on itself, right? It never ends. That's the loop I'm talking about. At the top is the I have a problem, right? I have a weight problem. I have a career problem. And I want to solve the weight problem, right? And you go on the journey of wanting to solve the weight problem. And in our society right now, to solve the weight problem, it's the model of dieting, irrelevant which diet it is, but you're going to control food, you're going to control exercise, perhaps even use medication, have surgery to fix the weight problem. And it works. You solve to some degree, like the third stage of that loop is you solve the problem, right? You reduce your body size to some degree. But next, like the next box on your loop is I'm still not happy. I'm still I'm still people pleasing. I am still anxious. I'm still having negative emotion. What the hell? Like I thought that the problem was my body weight, yet I'm still experiencing the same emotional life than when I was bigger. I'm still not happy. And now you go on the searching why that is, right? Why is it? And then the next box in the loop is, see, it didn't work. It must be something else. I must have done something wrong because I'm not happy. So now you go within yourself and you find the next level of things to fix. So my loop was I want to lose weight. I do some kind of diet. I lose the weight. And I remember vividly the next loop is I'm still not happy. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and say, I must be the loose skin. It must be the fact that now I've lost this weight and I've got this loose skin. If I could only solve the loose skin, then my life would be better. And then I start the loop again. Right now I'm going on to the problem is I created loose skin because I lost the weight and now I got to fix the loose skin. And then I went into a loop about fixing the loose skin. And guess what happened? Right? I get to the end, there's less loose skin. Do you think I was happier? No, because I was never addressing, quote unquote, the real problem. The real problem was never the weight. It was that I was trying to feel good enough to exist in this world by fixing my weight instead of the way that I was thinking about myself. I'm going to give you another example of that loop again. I'm going to give it to you in the context of professionals, health professionals and health coaches that I'm coaching. And some of you will resonate with that, even if you're not a professional. You go into the loop of, I have a weight problem, right? You go to work at solving the problem. So you somehow go on some kind of journey of reducing your weight. You reduce your weight, you solve the weight problem, and you're still not happy. You're still anxious. You're still self-criticizing yourself all the time. You still have bad relationship. You still have whatever emotional status or experience you have before is still present. You're like, what the heck? I'm still not happy. So it must be because I'm not healthy enough. And now you go into fixing your health status. which is how, by the way, wellness culture was created, right? Wellness culture was created because diet culture existed well before wellness culture, and it didn't fix the problem. So the world in the 70s, the world of healthism, of wellness culture, bubbled up as being the next solution of fixing the next problem that arise because the dieting didn't work. So then we go into the loop of being ultimately healthy, being mentally ultimately healthy, emotionally, mentally healthy. And it never gets there. It never gets us to the place where we are immensely happy and life is perfect. And that's usually when that loop, when professional go on the loop of ultimate health, that's where they come and work with me. Because after looping and shrinking their body, they become aware of diet culture. They're like, well, that's not good. It must be being ultimately healthy. And they loop in that for a couple of years. And they're like, fuck, it's still not the solution. And then somehow the universe puts me on their Instagram feed, their Facebook feed with this message. And they're like, oh my God, it must be something else. So if you're here today because you saw me popping on your Facebook feed, welcome, right? We're going to give you the real problem here today. And it has nothing to do with your health. It has nothing to do with your weight or your career. It has to do with the addiction of thinking that you are a perpetual problem to be fixed, that you as a woman have something wrong with you that if you could only fix, life would be better. Sometimes I refer that to an unconscious commitment. You are unconsciously, you're absolutely unaware that you are committed to believing that you are not enough. And I'm using this language of I am not enough because that's what I get from my client all the time. When they get to that point, like in between that second and third month, and he finally sent me a message say, oh my God, like everything that I'm doing with what you're teaching is leading me to see that everywhere I'm thinking I'm not good enough. And I'm like, yeah, like I want to jump in the air, high five them and clap them because that's really what it is. And that's what it was for me. When I finally realized that all the suffering I was creating in my life through dieting, through obsession with my career, it was all because I was unconsciously committed to not being good enough, which led me to try harder, to have burnout, exhaustion, black and white thinking, and never getting there. Now, I want to explain to you this concept of unconscious commitment, because if I don't do that, some of you will leave this podcast and think, there we go. I'm unconsciously committed. So this is what it is. This is the next layer of something is wrong with me. Okay, because you're going to take that unconscious commitment and you're going to make it, you're going to use it as a proof that something is wrong with you. This is really important what I'm about to tell you here. Unconscious commitments are not created by you. Unconscious commitment are the result or is the result of societal conditioning. We're going to go to the narrow field of the desire to lose weight and believing that you're not good enough because of your weight, quote unquote, problem. You didn't wake up, you didn't all of a sudden one day created that thought by yourself and that concept that you would be happier if you only lost weight. Society, from the tender age of 3 or 4 years old with your Barbie doll, told you that you would be happier as a woman if you were thinner. And then as you grew up, you'd be happier if you were blonde, and you'd be happier if you look like this kind of face, this beauty standard. So you started putting makeup on, you started to dye your hair, and then you wanted to shrink your body. And then as you grew up in the older age, in your 20s, it was about status, either through your career, through your wedding and having children and family status. We as a society told you that that's how life is supposed to be. And it's got reinforced by your family conditioning. Most of us have had a parent, a sister, a cousin, a grandmother who reinforced that being smaller is the ultimate key to happiness. And then weight stigma, externalized fat phobia came in, where you were told that at the doctor, you were told that in school, you perhaps were in a body that was larger that didn't fit the airplane seats, the boot at the restaurant. So weight stigma came in and like tripled, reinforced, like societal conditioning, family conditioning, weight stigma. Place these thoughts in your brain with thousands and thousands and thousands of repetition. And just like me, you came to believe that this was the truth. So you became committed unconsciously, thinking this is just the way life is, that you weren't good enough because you weren't able to check the box. And you stayed unconsciously committed until some outcast message like mine, like my podcast, my posts on social media, books from my colleagues, other podcasts came into your life and started to challenge this belief, these unconscious commitments. That's what coaching brings to the surface. So I'm going to loop back to the beginning of the podcast where I'm not a mind reader. I just have a framework, a system called cognitive behavior coaching that brings these unconscious commitment, these belief, this societal conditioning to the surface and allows for you to see that you are through the loop of my weight is a problem, of my health is a problem, of my loose skin, my wrinkles, my gray hair. You are looping into those problems, always finding the next problem and the next problem and the next problem, always trying to prove, to make yourself relieved from the belief that you're not good enough. But here's the problem. It will never be relieved. This deep-rooted unconscious commitment that creates the anxiety, the suffering, the despair will never be relieved through external achievement, through weight, through beauty standard achievement, career achievement, money achievement. It'll never be relieved. So you will loop, constantly finding the next problem to fix, in some case forever. My current client that I'm referring to today is 54 years old. So she's been looping in that. She had an eating disorder in her early teens. That's when it started. And when we did the work of backing up, it was family conditioning. It was some religious background around that. There was a father telling her she was not good enough. So she was looping in that since probably early teens, and she's 55. So roughly, she's been looping in that for 40 years. I looped in that for 25 years. Always trying to solve this thing I couldn't name that made me feel not good enough through external achievement. The solution to this problem addiction, making ourselves a problem through this desire to lose weight, is not through anything external. It's through the inner work. And I'm going to get into the more specific solution in just a minute. But the first step of solving this problem addiction, solving this looping, solving the desire to lose weight, the desire to be ultimately healthy, the desire to always make more money, get to the next level in your career, pleasing your boss. If you're a mom, some of my colleagues will tell you that's the good mother syndrome, always trying to get your family to the next level and your children to be more intelligent, more perfect, like perfect family schedule, perfect family calendar, right? Not so much my area of expertise. You can go to Unimi for that. We've had Unimi on the show many, many times. That's her specialty because she's a mom of 3 children, right? That's her specialty. But it's the same thing. It's the same loop. It's the same belief that we're chasing after. We're chasing after our innate self-worth. So, solution. The very first step of the solution is what we've been doing right now, which is awareness. And the most important, because we cannot solve what we don't know is happening. You know what I'm saying? So when we're looping in the desire to lose weight, we're not aware that underneath the desire to lose weight is an innate desire to be good enough, to be worthy. We don't understand that because nobody tells us that. So the first layer is becoming aware that the root underneath the desire to lose weight is a desire to be perfect, because you've been conditioned that as a woman, you need to be perfect in order to access being worthy and therefore happiness. So being aware is the very first step, is understanding the concept of problem addiction, your own loop. And then the second thing to be aware of is the goal of happiness. So the goal of when I finally feel good enough, I'll be happy, is this illusion that perfection is the gateway to happiness. And then happiness means life is perfect, which includes thinking that we're going to be happy all the time. We're going to be confident all the time. The truth is, life is 50-50, right? No matter which spiritual background you're in, that it is God, that it is the universe, there's a constant behind each one of those spirituality framework, is that life is 50-50. Life is supposed to be 50% happiness and 50% struggle, suffering, name it whatever, depending on the spiritual framework you believe into. But life is supposed to be 50-50. And the illusion that it's supposed to be 100% perfect, happy, content, joyful, smiling, life is good all the time, is part of the problem. Because when life is 50-50, we think, well, that here, look, I'm anxious right now, or I'm unhappy right now, I'm sad right now, so that's a problem. Like I must not have fixed my weight enough because I'm still experiencing sadness. I'm still experiencing rejection from people, even though I'm thin. So it must be that my character is not good enough. So I have to change my personality so that people will never reject me, because that's what life's supposed to be, which is an illusion. So there's 2 illusions, right? The illusion that we are a problem and the illusion that life is supposed to be perfect at all times. And that stage of self-awareness, when I say that step 1, is the most important. And it's the one that stage 1 of self-awareness, that one that takes the longest, I want to say, to get to. It's like to really feel that, understand that at our core. And then we can pause. That's step 2, pausing and really sitting with the fact that our loop are present, really understanding our own individual looping, our own problem addiction, our own ways of making ourselves a problem. How did it express itself in your own life? And really understanding and sitting and reflecting on the fact that this illusion of perfection is unachievable because that's not the purpose of life. And then asking yourself, so if it's not true that being smaller will solve all my problem, and it's not true that I'm going to get to a place where life is perfect all the time, like life is 100% happiness all the time, then what do I want to believe? And that requires building up our capacity of self-authorization. I've talked about self-authorization on a number of past podcast episodes, but this capacity to authorize ourselves to no longer co-opt, to no longer believe what our society has taught us, what our family has taught us, what our past experience has led us to believe, right? We'll take thinner, that we have to authorize ourselves. We have to choose to make the leap to believe that all bodies are good bodies, that my body is not a sign of my worth, that my body is not going to deliver a protection from rejection. It's not going to deliver happiness. My body is only a vehicle to experience life. We have to claim the authority, claim our power to walk away from those beliefs that have been taught to us for 25, 40 years. And that whew, let's all take a deep breath. That's a major step forward. That's where, again, coaching comes in, because while you're making the choice to divest from thinner is better, more money is better, younger is better, beautiful is better, having someone to hold your hand through that process makes it easier and faster. Because while you're learning to believe something contradictory to everything you've lived for your entire life, having someone to hold your hand to bring you a space of safety will make the process easier and faster. So, self-authorization, your coach cannot authorize you to do that. You have to come up and rise up to the place where I'm claiming my power, I'm authorizing myself to divest from those beliefs. Now, how do we do that divesting? How do we change our belief? That's where cognitive behavior coaching comes in. Cognitive behavior coaching comes in and says, okay, we are going to, through a process, help you, give you a framework, a step-by-step process to change your beliefs about the size of your body, about beauty standard, about money, or whatever the circumstances that you're playing in. We're going to give you a process, a step-by-step process to change your belief and build up the belief into something different. If I go to the specific circumstance, the desire to lose weight, here's what I see in the process of solving the desire to lose weight, where unfortunately too many people take the wrong road and never get there. So that may be where you are right now. When people try to solve the desire to lose weight, well, the number one thing they do is they try to lose weight, right? Which we know doesn't work long time. But even after they realize that that doesn't work, they make it an intellectual process. So this is when people become aware of diet culture, wellness culture, and then they go on the journey of reading all the books, of listening to all the podcasts, and thinking, if I put enough intellectual information in my brain about why the desire to lose weight will neither make me happy, my brain will change its belief. And it doesn't work. Because solving the desire to lose weight is not about intellectual information. It is a emotional and a mental process. It is a combination of cognitive, looking at your thoughts and your belief, with your nervous system, your emotional world. The two have to come playing, have to be acted upon, have to be taking action on in order for your brain to release the thinner is better, therefore the desire to lose weight, and then go through the process of body acceptance. That's where most people fail, is they make solving the desire to lose weight an intellectual process. And unfortunately, I see this in even how in the professional world. And I want to call this out for whoever you are listening to this podcast, that you are yourself a professional, or that you're a woman working with a professional, that unfortunately, the way women are moved through this process is sometimes intellectual, because the person guiding them through this process hasn't done their own work, and they're reteaching what they have done so far, which is an intellectual process. So if you're a professional listening to this, you will go to my other podcast on dietary coaching, and it's going to be the same message over and over and over again, right? Which is, you can only take your people, you can only take your client as far as you've taken yourself. And this is what I mean, but in the context of the desire to lose weight, if you're stuck in the loop of intellectual processing in order to release a desire to lose weight, and you haven't done the emotional, mental, like the nervous system, cognitive combination, and you won't be able to teach it to other people. So I want to call this out to anybody who's listening to this. If you're thinking the more studies, the more podcasts, the more books I read will get me to this place where I will accept my body, it won't get you there. And this is where like people like me will have to come into your life and help you bring a framework around changing your thoughts, and then also changing how your nervous system reacts to these new thoughts. Like that nervous system emotional journey that needs to be done, the compassionate part of the work that needs to be done in order for your brain to accept these new beliefs. Because pushing, like I'm like, my fist is closed and it's pushing in my hand. I don't know if you can hear the noise, like pushing yourself to believe that I need to release the desire to lose weight, it won't get you there. It will only make you more frustrated and amp up this belief, this underneath root that you are a problem. The path through it is both cognitive and self-compassion / nervous system regulation. If this problem addiction, if you're like you're listening to this podcast and it like you're having that earthquake, that haha moment, and you want to be guided through this process of understanding how to change your thought, your belief, how to onboard your emotional world, your nervous system into this journey, there's two ways for you to do that. If you are a professional, you want to come to my certification program, the non-diet coaching certification, where you will learn how to do it on yourself first. So we will take a circumstance in your life, and I will teach you the process, and you will release the desire to lose weight, the desire to be healthy, whatever it is for you. You will embody the work to releasing a part of your own problem addiction. And then we'll teach you a framework on how to facilitate that for other people. That's the non-diet coaching certification for professional. And if you are a woman who is not a professional in the field, but is realizing that that's what's behind most of her suffering in her life, and you want to do this work, that's when you come to It's Beyond the Food, the process to undiet your life, my program. You can do it on your own with my videos and handbooks and exercise. And within the program, if you want to hire a coach, a one-on-one coach to do this work with you and hold your hand, that's also possible. So there's 2 avenues for you to take this work to the next step, depending on your particular situation. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any question, this is a very deep, complex layer of the work. By all means, you can reach out to me on DM on Instagram or send us an email, and I will try to direct you in the best way to find the answer for you. It was a pleasure being with you. I love you, my sister, and I'll see you next week. Hey, my sisters, if you are loving what you are learning on the podcast, you have to come and check out our feminist mentorship masterclasses and our internationally recognized non-diet coaching certification on our website at www.stephaniedote.com/shop. This is where you can get the individual coaching and the support to take the concept taught on the podcast to the next level, embrace our well-being in a way that will expand our collective freedom and power. Come and join myself and other women to learn how to reshape your mind, not your body. I'll see you there.